Good evening, Zachariah Jackson, Basa News. In a few weeks, Salaam Ismaill will have 35 years in fighting for the people, fighting for justice, fighting for economic, and it all falls on economic justice and just justice for us all. Today I happen to be with him, and we're going to go over the many years of Salaam Ismaill, 35 years. Being an activist, being out there, and in the struggle, if you will, as it was conned years ago. Are you in the struggle? So right now I'm going to go over all the articles. Just show you Star Ledger up in Patterson, protesters up in Patterson, Sharpton 22, and other areas. I'm just scanning over the articles, and I'm come back in a few minutes, and Salaam will sit down and explain many of the articles and his event from 35 years ago. Okay, activists meet prosecutor, New York U.S. Times, and law and disorder, why cops turn violent, and T-Neck, which was a big one. I think that was Philip Pennell. And on the streets, just out here, marching. And, we had another interview a week ago, and we were just talking about, and I was asking him, do he get the support he deserves? People like him comes along once in our lifetime. Do we honor the great work that we do? In war, they have a thing called the war booty. After the war is over, that they collect something. And I wonder, and I asked him, how many people after the marches is over remember Salaam Ismaill, and how many people economically support him, which is very important. So we're here with Salaam Ismaill, going over his articles, just showing just some of the titles, some of the papers that's not even in print anymore. Stop the violence in the street, Okay. Now we have a sit down with Salaam Ismaill and just talk about, he grab a few of the articles and just have an in-depth conversation about his time. Okay, his signs, carried these signs for years, stop the killing, end gun violence, united we stand as one people, stop the killing, stop racism, stop injustice, a big one here, stop police abuse, no more silence, end gun violence, and all these little catchy phrases. And although they sound rather repetitious, but at the same time, they mean a whole lot in our community. All right. I'll back up for a minute and sit down and talk to the champion, Salaam Ismaill. Good evening, Salaam. How you doing?
I'm good. I know it look a lot kind of sloppy here, but actually I collected a lot of these articles. Some of the newspapers that covered our work is, like for instance, the Daily Journal no longer exists anymore. It went out of business in
Well, where was it? Where was it? Daily Journal.
Daily Journal was located in Elizabeth.
Oh, okay.
In fact, it was the oldest paper and was once the largest paper in New Jersey.
Wow.
And they went out of business in 1992.
For real? Oh, wow.
Yeah. So they covered me when I started, all the way to the end.
Wow.
Non-stop. But I wanted to display these articles because it's part of the history. Some of it you can't Google, but it's a part of the history. And many of this work, which I give credit to not just to me, I just let to the many people who have pretty much lend themselves, if you may,
Okay.
to this struggle. Some have made a lot of sacrifices and what have you, and I'm just so grateful that over the many years that I have. This is their work. This is part of their work. I just had to lead it, and it goes back to. It actually starts back in the '80s. I think you might have saw this when I was a SEP worker at SYEP. That's for Youth Employment Program.
Is that like Speedy that we had?
It's like Speedy. Yes,
Okay,
it's like Speedy, which is a youth program. I was actually a counselor then. I believe I was still in college, and I was.
What college did you attend?
King University.
Oh, right here. Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
And so that was one. That's when I got started. My mom actually was the president of the community group, so I was doing that. Then my first parlay. I don't know if you've seen this. This is the article with Jesse Jackson's first round for president, 1984.
Mm-hmm.
I was selected to be an alternate delegate. So that was my first, I guess, dib into politics. And I mean, it just, the more we decided to make this organization a permanent group, and that happened in 1985. And I, with a friend of mine who had just graduated, I believe he just got his law degree, and I said, look, how do I incorporate this? And so he said, I'll do it. So he, incorporated it went from the Elizabeth Youth Council, which is a local group, to the United Youth Council in 1985. September 23rd, 2020 will be 35 years.
Wow.
So, and it still exists. It went from there to, we incorporated in 4 states, including Washington, D.C., which makes us a national organization. So we call the National United Youth Council Incorporated. And we've done just about everything you could name. Our first parlay as the United Youth Council on it was to, right not too far from here, we had, there was a situation where the county had lost $500,000 in summer youth funding. So it was a little article this big in our local newspaper. So at that time, I was also the junior vice president of the NAACP. Well, I mean, I was third vice president actually. And also starting this organization. That was in 1986. So when the president told me that, the president of NAACP told me that, I said, we got to do something about it. Many of my members, my youth members, is not going to have no summer jobs. So we made some signs, almost look like this, but a little cheaper than that. And I put about 40 kids in front of the county building. And we protested for a straight week. And it went from one newspaper to newspaper from all over the state, radio station, TV cameras, and what have you. The Governor Tom King was the governor at that time. He got involved. He not only replaced the $500,000, but he expanded the summer youth program statewide.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was my 45 kids, I was a youngster at that time too, went in front of that building with those picket signs and gave hell. The chairman at that time of the Freeholder Board, which at that time was all Republican in 1986, they all lost in the next election. And the county to this day, never been Republican ever again.
Wow.
So I told the Democratic Party of that, and the Freeholders, I said, you owe it to a group of kids because we made life pretty bad for those Republicans. They were never elected. They never controlled the county body at that point. So, so at that point we were doing a lot of other stuff in the 80s. And this one, I don't know if you've seen this in your pan. We got involved with this. You can get a close-up on that. It said official defends drug baby.
Yes.
That was involving a young 8-year-old kid. That's this right here. This gentleman is Councilman at large, Reverend Ralph T. Grant. He's
Of
passed
Newark,
on.
New Jersey.
Yeah, Newark, New Jersey. He passed on. He had an organization called Fathers. It's a fathers group. I can't think of it right now, but we partner on saying, look, we're not going to have the court, because this 8-year-old child was actually was the one that was distributing the marijuana or the drugs to anybody that knocked on his door. For I believe he was staying with his parents, and he would give the drugs. So the state police raided the house, and also arrested this 8-year-old, put him in detention. So we made that was at a press conference. We made a lot of noise about it, got a lot of attention, and the judge, of course, didn't lock the 8-year-old up and dealt with the family. So the whole thing was dealt with. That was in 1989, and then things changed. 1990, I got a call. At that time, I was also the coordinator for UASO, which is the Union of African Student Organization. And what my task was, it was 17 different colleges, and I was organizing them to deal with college-based issues. I got a call on April 10th, 1990, that a young boy was shot by the police in Teaneck, New Jersey. It was one of my representative members, and I said, well, what happened? He said, the cop shot him in the back. Apparently, the cop went to the park in Teaneck, I think of Tehran Park, I can't think of the name, and 2 kids ran. 2 cops chased the one kid, Philip Pennell, 15-year-old, in the alleyway and shot him in the back. Their autopsy would show his hands up. After that, there was a rally and march, and it was a rebellious, or a riot, you may call it. And this was a city that was the first city in the state of New Jersey that desegregated their school system. That's what made it get so much attention. And I'm gonna tell you this, Zachariah, this case, the 1990 Philip Pennell police brutality case, made a lot of activists that exist today famous, or if they were infamous, famous. Every national leader, black leader in America, came to that city, including the Minister Louis Farrakhan, Jesse Louis Jackson, Reverend Al Sharpton, I believe Dick Gregory came. It was leaders from all, the NAACP leadership came. All over America came to Teaneck.
What happened with that? Was the cop found guilty?
Well, a couple of things. Well, again, this is a very interesting case. Because the township was unique and the attention that it got, there was an immense amount of pressure politically. At the time, there was I believe there was a Democratic governor. I don't remember right off. Yeah, I think Governor Florio, I believe, was in office. And we asked for a special prosecutor, and I believe we got the special prosecutor. And after 48 marches, including, I got to get this for you, it's the longest march in U.S. history. There you go, right here. I'm getting a close up of that. Yeah, so there you got, that was.
Sure, let me I can get a close up where you sit there with.
Yeah, okay.
I'll pull it in. Okay, I got it.
Yeah, so that was a march from Teaneck to Trenton. And the whole idea is to dramatize this issue, to push that these cops get indicted. So Gary Spath was one of the cops that was involved. He got indicted. I believe 2 years after that, he found not guilty. So he was indicted, but he was found not guilty.
By the special prosecutor.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
let me ask you this right here, just for the news audience. When the people call for a special prosecutor, that don't necessarily mean that they're going to find a person guilty. Can you explain what is a special prosecutor? I've been hearing that term for years, a special prosecutor. Who is it?
Well, people always want someone that's going to be unattached to the local police authority. In the case, let me just break it down this way. You have the police department, right?
Okay.
That governs over the police department outside of the local government, the mayor, council, is the county prosecutor. The county prosecutor is the supervisor of all the police departments in their county. Then there's the state attorney general, which is over all county prosecutors. We have 21 counties, 21 county prosecutors. And that particular AG is appointed by the governor. But the governor can also appoint a special prosecutor by executive order that will make him independent to the current AG, attorney general. And I think it's more of a feel-good because they're still connected with the government. They still could, have their own political opinion. But for years, people had asked for a special prosecutor. And so every now and then we got it. Things have changed now. Now we have a prosecutor specifically for police shootings or people died in police custody or whatever. So where the first win we got the indictment, and then we lost the case. So 90s was very rough. A lot of stuff happened in the 90s. For me personally, I even thought of parlaying to the mayorship, because what happened in 1992 in my city.
Your city being?
Elizabeth.
New Jersey.
There was a big major election going on, and there were 3 people running. The current mayor at that time was 28 years in. Then there was 2 council people going to run. So I tried to negotiate with one of the council people to push some of our agenda, the black agenda, the poor, indigenous agenda, and neither one of them didn't want to hear it. So I said, guess what? I'm going to run. So I know I didn't have a cat's chance.
Sure.
I know it was going to be tough. I didn't have the money, didn't have the mechanics. However, I knew one thing I was going to get is the attention, and that I got. So I did. So it's a little beat-up article, so there go us, right there. That was 1992.
Pull it up. Let me get a close-up on that. Oh, okay, you had hair at it.
I had hair.
All right.
And you see that's the mayor at that time, Mayor Tom D. Dunn, Chris Bowles, who now the current mayor, who's also served 30 years from that day.
Wow.
And you see me, with big mustache, and Robert Jaspin. So it was 4 of us running for the seat, and Mayor Chris Bowles, who is the current mayor now. He won. But the good thing about it is, and also I got the endorsement of Reverend Sharpton, came out and endorsed me and different things like that. So it was fun, and was able to push some of our agenda, some of the things that we wanted on the table we got. So beyond that, the 90s was like crazy for me. I mean, I was in, the police brutality was going off the hook. I was organizing in cities like Patterson and all the way down to Woodbury, New Jersey, to Atlantic City, stuff in Atlantic City. I mean, all over. I was called, or many of my affiliate organizations brought me in the 90s, and we were just in Plainfield, you name it, Jersey City, you name it, we were dealing with it. And we brought a lot of attention to it. In Newark, some of the most high-profile cases in Newark, where the one standout was in 1991, when Tasha Mays, who was a 16-year-old, she was pregnant inside a van, along with 5 other kids, was in a stolen van. The Newark police spotted the van, and the driver in the van took off with them in it. Police chased him into Hillside, chased him up to a North Broad Street bridge, and then Hillside police joined in. They trapped the van. One cop said they heard a shot, and then 43 bullets lodged into the van, killing 2 kids. And it was the most horrendous thing you could ever know. And so what we was doing at that time is, as you know, just a year ago we had Philip Pennell, 1990, and 91 we got this van shot up by the police, Newark Police and Hillside Police. Of course, nothing happened to them. None of them was convicted, but we had decided to plan a big march, and this time we wanted to have a march from. We had the march from Teaneck to Trenton to dramatize police brutality. But police brutality in the 90s was probably the worst I've ever seen.
Well, let me stop you right here. And since every other day you hear about police brutality, what is it all about facing the black community? Because we notice that the behavior, like we talk about desensitized training, diversity training, and all these different things, all these different gears that we talk about shifting to.
Mm-hmm.
But why is it that in the black community, right, it seems to only be that the abuse is so horrific? Why is it so much in the black community and not other communities?
I mean, how far you want to go back? Listen, systemic racism, and it was a plot and a plan from the time of the slave trade to throughout the Jim Crow. There was always this effort to keep the black man down, if you may.
So
and through policing is their power source to do just that, to control them, to ghettoize them, and to keep them isolated, and of course, to keep them in jail. If you keep them in jail, you disorientate their livelihood once they get out. And if you do that, then you impoverish their community. And if you impoverish their community, they become more and more less worth. So the policing system is probably the instrument that the racist system used to annihilate, destroy, manipulate, to curtail, to kowtow the black community. And that's been their use all along. And the 13th Amendment is specifically said, hey, look, slavery don't exist. However, mass incarceration can be used as a second strike for that.
Okay, let me say this here too. Even that at the hands of the minority police officers also, that sometimes is in attendance, or sometimes are the abusers. That what's up with that right there? Shouldn't they feel something?
Well, no, but it's a system. So, like I always tell people all the time, I say 1,000 times over, it's a system. It's not about the individual police. It's the system. If the system is racist, it's just like a cop. If a cop go on his beat, and I want to talk about the other stuff, I know we're going to have to short of time. If the cop go on his beat and the policy is, did you put more enforcement in, let's say, Broad Street, right? And that happened to be a black community, then that's where the policing is going to be at. And they say, well, these are people, the profile folks, that's the bad guy. And so those police, whether they're black, brown, or white, doesn't matter. They already have a policy in place to enforce their policing on this particular community, among this particular profile, and among these particular racial groups.
So are you saying it's basically like a catch-22? Because I've been in these marches with you and many other black leaders that hollered that we needed more black cops and cops of color and things. So when we get them, so we're not getting a lucky charm. We're still getting, we're still crapping out. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, sure, we want more black and brown officers, but we still got to understand they're still under a racist system. But we still should ask for it. We still should
even though if they do the same thing to us, so we should.
Well, no, if we put more of us in the police department, and we push the pendulum for change, so coupled with those things, it'll benefit us in the long run.
Okay.
So let me go down the line because I know we're running out of time. So when the 90s was a lot of stuff, and I can go over all these different
things. Come on, just bring it. We got the time.
This is article of a police. This is near the Time magazine that we was highlighted, and this is a kid that we dealt with. He was
Hold that
choked.
right there. Let me see.
He was choked. His name Uriah Hanley. He was choked by Plainfield white police officers. And again, I mean,
Okay,
this particular case went all around the world.
What year was that?
That was 1991.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that went around the world. And it was not only Time magazine, it was on Japanese television. I talked to people from Germany and whatever, all over the world, that particular case, because it was a kid playing with a toy car, and the police came in and they just went bonkers.
With a toy car?
Yeah, it was a toy motorized car. Police came on the scene and, just went bonkers.
Wow.
So it's kind of a little bit, the policing was so crazy in the 90s that you would not believe. And I'm telling you, I kept busy, not only in New Jersey, but I also traveled around the country. Now, moving on to the 2000.
Okay.
It went from the police brutality at front pages to gun violence. One of the cases was this case, and this is probably the only case that I actually, I hope it ain't in here. I actually wanted to bring that because this is a case involving there was a young lady. She was sitting on her porch in East Orange on Summit Street.
East Orange, New Jersey.
East Orange, New Jersey, on Summit Street, and she was
I
there.
know Summit.
Yeah, she was there sitting down with a couple other kids. This happened around in August. Was it August? July? August. And all of a
And
sudden,
what year was that?
That was it was 2003.
Was Mayor Bowser, I think, was the mayor.
Mayor Bowser was the mayor. Mm-hmm. There was a drive-by, and the gentleman drive-by, and he just sprayed. It was about maybe 6, 7, 8 young people sitting on a porch, and they shot and killed Naviana Hippolyte and Flynn Myers. Naviana Hippolyte was a 4-year-old baby.
My God.
Who was being held by her mother sitting in front of on the porch. The gentleman, Flynn Myers, actually jumped in front of another kid who was 9 years old to protect her from the gunshots. And he took gunshots in his back.
He died.
He died, yes. So, we held rallies, and this singular case made me not turn my eyes off of gun violence ever again. This case right here. Of course, in 2008, a lot of friends of mine know one of my good friends' son was murdered, who I call my godson. He was shot in 2008, and again, during this time, violence was very crazy. Fights was all over, fights that ended up in death. And so I was definitely on a whirlwind of trying to deal with gun violence. And then, of course, the later it got into the 90s, to the 08, 07, 08, the police brutality started raising its ugly head. Then comes 2008, when Sean Bell, those who may know Sean Bell, we had, let me just get this article. Sean Bell was a young 23-year-old. He had just got married. He had one of those bachelor parties at this club. He left the bachelor party.
I don't think he got married yet. He was getting ready to get married.
Well, they said he was married.
Okay.
Because, some people, you do your marriage certificate.
Okay.
And because the wedding was actually, the ceremony was actually the next day. So,
Okay.
technically it was married. So he went to the bachelor party. They came out, got in the vehicle. Police came, and I guess they were doing surveillance of the club for whatever reason. And so they went surrounding his van, and depends on who's talking. They said the van tried to move or whatever. They heard gunshots or whatever, and they shot 50 bullets inside the van.
I remember that case.
They shot a couple of other friends that was in there, and Sean Bell received a number of bullets, and he died. Reverend Sharpton and many others had led citywide marches in New York City. Our group, I created with a friend of mine, Street Organizing Coalition inside Harlem. And this is our march, actually. You want to get a close up on
Let me
it.
just get a close up on it. Just hold that right there.
This is our march. We had about 400 people, and we actually marched around Harlem, a whole mile around Harlem. And we kept.
What paper is that, Salaam?
That's the that's the New York Post. New York Post. And whereas Sharpton and the other national leaders were holding marches, we kept doing marches in between. We ended up doing 15 marches for Sean Bell, including one in front of Madison Square Garden where we held the traffic at the Broadway Theater, where we almost stopped people from going to the theater, and at Queens, and all the boroughs, Queens, Manhattan, Bronx. And because we wanted to we didn't want no lights off. We wanted to keep lights on, and that's what we did. And that's us right there. And I believe that's the one in Harlem. And so Sean Bell was another, I would say, one of those moments in my life kind of thing that I really took as something I wanted to really,
What year was that, Salaam?
That was 2008.
2008?
Yeah, he was shot years or so before that, but once the judge, they came out with no indictments, then it went crazy. Let me see what else.
What about Amadou? Do you have anything on Amadou Diallo?
Amadou, I wasn't involved in that.
Okay.
Believe it or not, I met his mom and his family, and at marches, other marches from Mr. Sean Bell and whatever, but I never done nothing that in my leadership was on the Amadou Diallo case.
I'm going to take you back to a case that is almost always unmentioned today. A grandmother by the name of Eleanor Bunkers.
Bumpers, yeah.
Bumpers. Bumpers it is?
Yeah.
Okay. Eleanor Bumpers.
That was 80.
That was in the 80s.
Yeah, 80s.
And it was about some kind of rent, and she got shot by the police officer.
Shot with a shotgun.
Yes. Now, were you involved in anything with that? Okay.
Bad enough, 80s, I was very young, so I was, kind of new. And unlike other activists, I was one, I wait my turn. I follow the leader. I take notes, and I took on the leadership when I was absolutely groomed and ready to go, and that's why '85, which is the year when I started the United Youth Council, was also the year that I knew at that point I'm ready to be a leader. I'm ready to mobilize folks. I'm ready to move forward ahead. Prior to that, it was just a learning experience. I don't even count those. Just like kindergarten, first grade, second grade. But
So basically, it was an apprenticeship.
Absolutely.
And you weren't
we've done a lot of work. Just as briefly, we fought for the vendors right here in Elizabeth, New Jersey. I know we're going to do another segment on what I've done nationally. We're going to talk about that. And what else?
We got about 19 more minutes on this.
We've done a lot of work in different cities. I'll just name a few. Across my hometown, Elizabeth, we had the sewer pharmacy. They put up a negative sign. Patterson. We've done a lot of work in Patterson, Hillside.
Hillside, New Jersey.
That's it, absolutely. Hillside with a daycare center where they were going to close. We went out there and done a demonstration. Jersey City with a gentleman was shot. We got involved in that. You name a city in New Jersey, we was there. West Deptford, Trenton, you name it. You name it. We done New Brunswick. New Brunswick was real big in 2011. The police killed this gentleman. South Jersey, Moshawan Leach, in Salem County, Penns Grove, and we fought corporations. And I'll mention that in another segment at another time. But I don't want to spend the whole next 20 minutes. I want to just wrap this part up and then talk about the other things, because I want to also talk about, so my audience can know about what we did nationally. And I want to say that because I want to talk about what we did nationally in the next segment, because I want people to know, especially new activists, I want to take some of my work to be a teaching tool.
Yes.
And which Brother Zachary, that's been a problem in our community. All this work right here, and it's a library full of work. We should use this to teach new activists.
Yes.
New community
Yes,
leaders.
yes.
Up and coming people.
Yes, yes.
This is a wealth of work. This comes with strategy.
Yes.
This came with some real skillful organizing. And look, I didn't start out, I told you, I started out as a youth counselor. I'm a trained youth counselor. That was my day job. This right here is something that fell in my lap.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned it as much as I can learn it. That's why through NAACP, through my mother organization, I learned fast. But this, it's nothing but my history.
Sure.
If I don't share it with other folks, so it could be
Well,
part of it.
let me ask you something. Have you ever been invited to do an assembly and
Yeah,
to do talks
Yeah,
at the schools?
I do speaks all the time.
Have you ever been invited to do the school?
Absolutely, I spoke all around the country. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, but the thing is now I want to get more of on a teaching kind of. I want to teach this, So I just like we invited to speak on an issue.
Sure.
That's one thing, but to teach it is something I want to do. But I have to make this all into a teaching manuscript so we can start teaching folks. Because I think one of the biggest problems is that's why we get mad at some of the new activists. Some people call them microwavable activists or internet activists. But that's part of our fault, because we have been bringing them guys in and sharing the wealth. A lot of our leadership, I hate to call it out, brother, I got to call it out. A lot of our national leaders, regional leaders, they want to die with this.
Sure.
They don't want to share it. They want to wear the fame and the glory and probably even money, and forget about it.
Well, that has been the way, if I will, with people of color from the beginning. That they may have a rock that's so sacred, or a bottle that's so sacred, and no one can touch that bottle until they get 90 years old. But where others come in and they build right around that bottle, you understand? So that's been our way. That's something that I think that we have to take a look at, because as we skate across this Western hemisphere, let me say it like that, as I'm reading a book of the British Empire from the beginning, from the inception of the British Empire, and learning a whole lot that, that we are basically, as Jamaicans coined the phrase, we're one blood. Meaning one blood, not just black, but one blood is people that's non-white. You understand? Under the suffering, under the British Empire and the other empires that along the way, and it bothers me a lot how, sometimes I'm tickled to death when I see people of color that try to come up with a different story. That you understand me? A different way or whatever that was supposed to be so nice or whatever.
But this is why I say it's so much. It's so important that we teach this and we educate our folks so we can be equipped. And I'm gonna close out with this. I'm gonna tell you, when you don't have knowledge, when your people is not planned, strategy, or any of those things that make some of the stuff, and a lot of this was successes that came out of this, but it came with work, it came with people with knowledge, it came with people with no fear, it came with a whole lot of stuff that come in. We have to instill that to up and coming guys, and when we do that, then you'll see a lot of the stuff that we kind of put a dent in, they're going to be the one that put the rock in it.
All right. Okay, well, we're in this segment, and Salaam, as we end this segment here, we're going to march all the way until, we'll take you all the way every week up until November 3rd.
It's election day, right?
Election day. We'll get together early that morning and do a taping, and then that'll conclude us for this year and of your celebration of 35 years being an activist, being out there marching and fighting and hanging with yourself and the big guys, that's got national fame. Is there a way that someone can contact you? Can they support you
Sure.
economically? Do you have a what do you call that?
We have a cash app.
Cash app.
You can reach me at Salaam_Ismaill@hotmail.com. You're welcome to and that's SALAM_ISMIAL@hotmail.com. You can call, which is 917-673-0563. That's 917-673-0563. Or if you want us to continue to support our work, because you gotta have money, unfortunately, to move things, to gather and help organize. And you can do it by our Cash App, which is the $WE4, the number 4, justice. Again, that's the $WE4, justice. And we're welcome to support, we welcome your involvement, and we're going to continue to do what we do to keep hope alive and to keep justice in the forefront.
Okay, this is Basa News, and we're going to conclude this segment of Salaam Ismaill March towards his 35 years. September 23rd would be 35 years of activism. And let me say this right here, I was listening to Earth, Wind, and Fire the other day, and I heard Maurice White said, do you remember the 21st time, I believe in September, and I kind of conned that as the 23rd. And I thought about you. All right.
All right. Talk to you.